Today we are going to be drawing with oil pastels our underwater scene. We are going to be practicing different oil pastel techniques to draw and create our sea creatures and our sea floor. Everyone is going to be drawing at least one jellyfish and their sea floor with some seaweed or some kind of growth at the bottom of their paper. Then you'll have some choice of some other sea creatures or sea plants that you might add later on. So start to think about what things you might want in your drawing. Alright, so now I'm going to be showing you how to draw your jellyfish and make it look like it's kind of see-through or translucent like the ones that we see here and like how jellyfish really are. So we'll be outlining our jellyfish with a darker shade of either white or pink or purple. And then we'll be using our finger to kind of smear it and add some more color to it. Alright, so the first jellyfish you draw will be pretty big. I would start maybe with a couple of guide dots, and you might draw your first jellyfish here on this side, or maybe a little bit lower down here on this side. But this is about the size that I would do. So a couple of guide dots, and I'm going to use white for my first jellyfish. Okay, so I would say that's about 4 inches apart. And they don't have to be straight up and down. They can be kind of turned because those jellyfish kind of float in the water. So I'm going to be connecting my guide dots with just a big upside down U or a big bump. You want this line to be nice and dark and thick. So you kind of go over that line a few times. Then to make the rest of your jellyfish, you do kind of a backward C and then a normal C on each side. And then make a bunch of little U shapes to connect your jellyfish. And you do not have to make your jellyfish exactly the same as mine. It's basically a bump at the top and then some U's at the bottom. Okay? And you want your outline to be nice and thick. So I'll go back over my lines. Alright. Making it nice and thick. Okay, then to make your jellyfish tentacles, you will just make some curves going down, and they'll all be at different lengths. So, and some of them will be thick and some will be thin. So this one I'm going to repeat the same curve so that it's one thicker tentacle. And then I'll color that in. And then I'll make a couple other thicker ones. This one's going to be shorter. And they can curve in different directions to make the jellyfish look like it's moving in the water. So there's some thicker ones. Now I'm going to take the point of my oil pastel and make some skinnier ones. And now I might overlap and make these look like they're on the other side of my jellyfish. They're all kind of flowing in different directions. Alright, now to fill in the top part of my jellyfish, I'm going to lightly go over a little bit of it with my white. Now this time you can tell I'm not pressing as hard, and I'm kind of curving it around to make it look 3D. Very lightly. Okay. Now this is when, if you would like to, you could add in a second color like a pink or a purple to go along with it. Okay, again, I'm just lightly going over this with my pink. Can barely see it right now. Then you might push a little bit harder on your darker outlines with your second color so that they mix together. And then you might even add this pink color to your tentacles as well. You might overlap that a little bit or make some more tentacles with your second color if you choose to. Okay. Now, to make this all look like one smooth, slimy jellyfish, you're going to take your finger and smooth out those lines with your finger. Not pressing too hard, you're just lightly kind of blending it together. And if you want to add a little bit more color, you can. And when you use your finger, curve your finger in the way that you curved your oil pastel when you drew it. So you're kind of pulling the darker colors from the edges down in, so that it all blends together and it makes your jellyfish look 3D. But notice how you can still see the blue in the background because your jellyfish is see-through. Right? That's kind of the basic way that you would draw a jellyfish. Alright, so now we are going to be drawing our seafloor, so you will need your brown oil pastel. And all we're going to do is just make one more curve at the bottom to show where the seafloor is, and that's that sand down here. So we'll be using brown and then some yellow or white to kind of add some sand-looking texture to it. So you're just going to make a slight curve all the way across the bottom of your drawing. And then just taking the side of your oil pastel and filling that in with brown. And then after you have filled the whole bottom with brown, you will just take a yellow or a white or even an orange over top of it and just lightly go with that to make it look, have a sand look to it. And you can use quite a bit of pressure when you're doing this, and if it gets to be too light when you add the yellow, you can always go back over top of it with your brown and push a little bit harder. This brown that I have is kind of an orangish brown. Yours is a little bit darker, and that's okay. Alright, so there's your ocean floor. So just brown and yellow overlapping. If you would like to use some white to kind of outline it, you could do that as well, or mix in some white to it too. Alright, so I would like everyone to draw some seaweed on the sides of their project. Starting at the very base of your drawing, you will use both the dark green and the light green when you are doing this. And these are very organic seaweed, so yours does not have to look like anyone else's, but all you really need to do is curve your seaweed so it goes all the way to the bottom, and then you'll just fill it in. You'll have to push pretty hard to get it to go over top of the brown that you just colored in. Fill that whole piece of seaweed in with your dark green all the way to the bottom, and it's usually thicker at its base, so I would definitely say it gets skinnier at the top and thicker at the bottom. And you might draw a couple of pieces on each side, and that will kind of frame your picture. If you have seaweed on this side and a little bit on this side, and they can be different lengths. This one's going to be shorter, but again at the bottom it's thicker at the bottom. Okay, and you could draw them with your dark green on both sides first. And this can also overlap over top of your jellyfish. These are closer to us, so they're in front of the jellyfish. And you'll just have to push really hard anytime you're overlapping with another color of oil pastel. Okay, and you might have some just shorter, filling in here and overlapping. After you have your dark green done, then you'll go with your light green, and the side that's closest to the light source up here is where you'll be adding in your light green. So that's kind of like making a highlight on these, making them lighter on this side that's closest to the highlight. Okay, so on this side, the light is coming from over here, so you would add the highlight on this side of the seaweed. You could also add yellow to your highlight to make it even lighter. Make a lighter shade of green. You could lighten it up with yellow, or you could even add white to it to make an even lighter highlight. So it depends how much time you have and how light of a highlight you would like to get on your seaweed. There you go.